Welcome to the Varsity Voices podcast, where every week we bring you the inside information and insight on Chicago Catholic League football. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and like us on wherever you're listening and get your favorite podcast from. You can also find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube by searching Varsity Voices Catholic League Football or Varsity Voices Catholic League Sports. If you want to leave us a comment, you can do that here, or feel free to email us at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. I'm Joe Frevaletti, one of your hosts, and here with me is your other host, Dan Frevaletti. We're continuing today with another one of our preseason special episodes of From the Coach's Office. And this time we had a chance to talk with head football coach at Leo, Marques Stevenson. But before we get to that, Dan, we wanted to tell our listeners about a upcoming podcast episodes where we're going to be calling them Friday Night Blitz, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be an opportunity for people to listen into a live podcast where we'll be providing updates and information on all of the games that are going on within the Chicago Catholic League. So that'll be primarily on Friday nights. We're going to be monitoring the broadcasts, you and I, of each of the teams. So we'll be able to provide updates and also recaps. But we'd also like some listener involvement, so to speak. So if anyone out there listening would like to be a correspondent, if you're going to be at a game and want to check in with us during the live podcast and give us some updates, we would love for you to be involved. So the more people that we can do that, the more people that are interested, more correspondence we have, the better the podcast is, right?
It's all about the information, and Joe, just when I think we are getting kind of a foothold, getting a grasp on what we're doing, how to do this, how to make this go to air or whatever, drop as a podcast episode, we bite off something else, more than we can probably chew. So it is, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. I wouldn't expect it to be, to sound like NFL Red Zone, week one, but it should be a lot of fun. And the more correspondence we can get, the better the information. So, the better the broadcast will be. I think it'll be a ton of fun. We have talked, I think when we originally talked about doing a podcast, we've talked about it for several years, that one of the things we wanted was we felt like there could be more updates on a timely basis. And yes, it means that we're going to be watching high school football on computers and monitors Friday night, but that's not a bad Friday night in my book. So
no, it's not a bad Friday night for me either. And
right.
You and I both talked about how and I don't know how far back this goes, but when I think it was WGN used to have their Friday night coverage of high school football, usually it would start sometime, mid-game or towards the end of the game, and they would have people calling in, giving scores, providing some other kind of recap information, and I loved listening to that show. So I think us doing this, I think people will love it. So I want people to, especially people who are interested in high school football and want to know what's going on out there and want to know the scores. So it'll be the place to come to get that information.
The place to come. Yep. I always looked forward to that, hopping in the car after our games on Friday night, listening to that recap on WGN, and maybe MVP did it or ESPN Radio did it for a year or two, but that was a lot of fun, and it was something that kind of that bus ride or car ride from the game back to our coach's office we all had on and listened to religiously. So hopefully we can bring the same type of energy and information to that podcast.
Yeah. All right. So anybody listening, again, you can leave a comment with your information if you want, saying you'd like to be a correspondent. You're going to be out at some games, or feel free to email us at varsityvoices312@gmail.com, or contact us on social media, anywhere, and just let us know if you'd like to be a part of it. So, all right. So back to the interview, and like I said, this is with head coach for Leo, Marques Stevenson. Is this his first year or second year?
This is his second year in the program. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, Joe, we kind of both did this, and, every coach, I've told people who've asked me about this, every coach surprises me in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe, like I've said, collectively as a group, they are so passionate, on top of it, and Coach Stevenson's no different, no different at all. And Leo's been down a few years, but Coach Stevenson's resume is outstanding. What he has planned for the school and the program, top notch. It sounds like enrollment numbers are on the upswing. So another Catholic League program that is going to be formidable for years to come.
Right, and he mentions in the interview, you'll hear it, they're the smallest school enrollment-wise in the Chicago Catholic League, right?
Yeah.
But even though that's the case, their numbers, like you just mentioned, are trending up, right? I think he said they're turning people away.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah, they've had to turn people away 2 years in a row, so that's always a good sign.
Yeah, and, for him, it's, maybe you call it a rebuild when he comes in, but
Sure.
after listening to the interview, instead of rebuild, I think of more rejuvenation, right, of the Leo program.
Good word. Yeah, that is where it's going to be, and he is leaning into their history, leaning into social media, doing a lot of things that successful coaches have to do in this program, and they all know they're all great coaches. But they know it starts and ends with the players, and you've got to get numbers, and you've got to get quality kids and athletes in. So it's pretty exciting listening to him. He is the coach that had me ready to suit up and go and join the squad for my one play that I have left. So he was exciting, and he had me fired up. So I'm excited for everyone to hear it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to it then. This is Coach Marques Stevenson from Leo.
Welcome to a special edition of Varsity Voices from the coach's office. Joining Joe Fravoletti and me today is Coach Marques Stevenson, the head coach of Leo Lions. Coach, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Coach, reading your bio, I see you're a veteran of the Gulf War in the U.S. Navy. Thank you for your service. How much of your military training or teachings make their way into your football program?
I firmly believe in who I am as a man today is largely I'm due in part from the instructors and basic training, the core values that they put into me with honor, courage, and commitment. Discipline, living a disciplined lifestyle. And so a lot of what I give is based off of what I've received from my military training. And then not even just that, there's something that's very different at Leo. Out in our courtyard, we actually have a military memorial of all the veterans that have gone on and passed away that served the United States military. And then also Corporal Farney, I hope I'm not saying his name incorrectly, post-hospitally, they gave him the Medal of Honor, and they did that last year during our veteran ceremony. And so to be a veteran, to be the first head football coach that is a military veteran, and to see everything that we're seeing right now, it's unprecedented at this time. And our president, Mr. Dan McGrath, has said that every military institution, recruiting organization that wants to come in and see our young men, they have unfiltered access to them. So, I mean, I'm very proud to be the head coach and also be a veteran.
Yeah, so Coach, you're in year 2 now, right, of your head coach at
Yes,
Leo?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I'm sure you're making a lot of changes. Once you came into the program, and what types of changes have you made, like from a football program perspective, and are you starting to see kind of the benefits of those changes?
Yes. So one of the things that I really tried to invest in was definitely like a social media presence. A lot of the boys, in an effort to be able to get to as many people as possible and to reach a larger audience, I invested heavily in social media, being able to get reels out, different things like that. We actually got a really, really good football player that, moved to Chicagoland and looked up, Chicago, Catholic football and whatnot, or football. And because of one of the reels that we had that did over 30,000 views, it popped to the top of his feed. And so based on that, and then what he saw on there with the different uniform combinations, the helmet combinations, some of the gear that they have, or the kids call it swag, he naturally gravitated over and started talking about it. I have taken the University of Oregon approach, being able to get some of the different uniform combinations and being able to get us out there. There's a book called Brands Win Championships, and it says people are slow to crown a king, but they're quick to identify a Cinderella story. I think that that's us. I think that there's a lot of people that haven't had a chance to be able to see the Leo of old. And I'm bringing some old coaches on that were from that era when they were highly successful under Coach Holmes, Coach Foster, and they understand the cost of winning. And so I think that that's super important from an alumni standpoint. We even say to the boys, if you think the price for winning is too steep, wait until you get the bill from regret. The bill from regret is generational.
No, I think you have the sorry, Dan. I was just going to say, I think you have one of my favorite Instagram handles, Coach. Are you Dr. Friday Night Lights?
I am.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I watched some of those on Instagram and some of the TikTok, and what you talk about doing with social media and that, I can see how it's become very effective for you.
Yeah, I've had some pretty good following at every school that I've been at. I've been able to utilize that platform as a medium to be able to get more exposure for the programs, creating different hashtags that people can they can pull up, that almost doubles as a search engine optimizer to be able to pull us to the front of a lot of those posts and coming up with clever different hashtags. One of my favorites at every school that I've ever been at, there's a hashtag, and there's something from that post that if you Google that, it'll pull up every post that we've ever had or any of the kids that have been around. And so it kind of gives them a sense of pride as well.
I think we need you as part of our social media coordinator for Varsity Voices, Coach. You have a great handle on it. What's it done for the program? So I think I read somewhere that your numbers last year were great for the incoming freshmen. Love to hear more about like that, and are you seeing that kind of roll over into year 2?
Yeah, so we ended up with 45 young men that came in on the football side last year. We had 85 total full program. We finished around 68 to 70 kids, so that puts us at an 80% attrition rate. And so for me, not just looking at on the field, but looking at overall sustainability and being able to keep the kids that are out there, if we can stay above 80, 80%, we'll be good. This year we're right around 96 on paper. We've had about 89 that have gotten helmets and equipment, and we're around 72 to 73 in practice every day all throughout the summer. And so we're looking really good. We're looking competitive. We've been some places. We've won some 7-on-7s. We brought some key figures over to be able to help us. Offense, defense, special teams. For the first time in a long time, we've got a pretty good kicker that converted over from soccer. He's kicking 35-yard field goals. Having a great kicking game is definitely going to transform how we perform. And taking advantage of every opportunity that we have to make guys guard every blade of grass is going to help us in the long run to be able to try to make a playoff run.
Yes, so I saw, Coach, you had the opportunity to work with Coach Nissen and the legend Frank Lenti, Coach Frank Lenti, while you were at St. Lawrence.
Yes, sir.
What did you take from that experience, and how does it affect you now as far as being a head coach?
Well, so to be able to serve under the head coach as Adam Nissen, and then also Coach Frank Lenti. Coach Frank coaches the coaches, and so I developed a really good relationship with him. Phenomenal coach and mentor for me. He's given me a lot of good advice on things that I should be going with. He was one of the coaches that broke it down to me right away. I thought I had a pretty good understanding and grasp of the game. And he said, Coach, one of the things that you need to start looking at is this football field is a chessboard, and it's all about numbers. He's like, so if I get the ball on the minus 20, I have an 80% chance of failure. And so it decreases as I start moving and getting first downs to be able to get towards that plus, on the positive side. He's like, and if I can't, I want to punt the ball and put it and transfer that negativity over to them. And so then I take my defense as one of my strongest units, and then we'll be able to transfer that over to an 80% chance of failure to them. If they don't have a good kicking game, they kick it, we get it, we return it back to the 50. Now I've got a 50% chance of failure and a 50% chance of success. He's like, I like those odds. And he's like, so I'm always going to bet on me. I'm always going to bet on our kids and put them in the best possible situation. And the other thing that he always said was, how you do anything is how you do everything. Be the man that you say that you're going to be, and continue to be able to develop these kids, because at the end of the day, this is what we're really in here for. With Coach Adam Nissen, I got a chance to be able to get to know him. I got to know his family, wonderful family there out of Iowa, in Chicagoland. Got a really good chance to be able to see, to be a head coach and to be able to see what he was like with his kids on a day-to-day basis, bringing his kids out there, and the kids that are in the program embracing his kids as, their little brother or little sister. And just kind of seeing, the culture that he had there was special for the kids. And it was bittersweet, being able to get an opportunity to be able to be a head football coach. When that same group that went to the state championship, I took them 8-1 their sophomore year and helped develop them into the champions. And he trusted me with that class. That was his first recruiting class. And he told me, Coach, I really need you to go down there. You're the varsity defensive line coach right now, but I need you to go down and be able to help take care of my incoming class. I need to keep that sophomore group together and get them to winning, so that they can be able to become champions. And right as he said, they became champions, and they were state runner-ups.
It's always good to have a great mentor, and having two certainly can only help. So you mentioned you coached D-line on the varsity there. I looked at your bio, and you spent time as both an offensive and defensive coordinator. Are you coordinating one side of the ball at Leo?
So, ironically, I've got another mentor that was phenomenal, Bob McMillan. And so Bob gave me my first opportunity to be a head coach at the sophomore level. I started off in 2017 with him at St. Francis, and started working with him. And he said, "Hey, listen, Coach, you're my head. You're my offensive line coach." He's like, your personality, the way that these kids gravitate towards you, I think you're destined for greater things. He's like, I want you to be my sophomore head coach and kind of like learn, the ins and outs. And, Bob's a Hall of Famer. I've known him, his wife, Miss Joni. I'm another McMillan, in that aspect. Christmas, I used to be out there with Christmas in Elmhurst with them, with the family. I really got a chance to really develop. And I love what I'm seeing over there as well. It's phenomenal. Just having somebody like that, Doug DeFusco, Ivan Milivojevic, those group of gentlemen that helped build what St. Francis is today, I really got a chance to be able to see that and kind of see that kind of success and be able to bounce over. And then so for me, Coach Bob always told me, he said, listen, I want to just be able to manage my program, help with the recruiting aspect, and then coach special teams. And so I'm working towards that. I'll probably be towards year 3. I'm going to be coaching the offensive line, which is something that I haven't had a chance to really focus on. I'm fortunate and blessed to have been able to coach several kids that have gone on to become, all-state players on the O-line and D-line. But I'm more passionate about seeing kids that weren't probably the best athletes and being able to help them become better men, sons, fathers, and hopefully great husbands. And that means more to me than anything or any wins and losses.
So you've been around the Chicago Catholic League or in the Chicago Catholic League for a while. Have been at St. Lawrence, you were at St. Joe's, St. Francis, as you just mentioned. What do you see as one of the biggest challenges about playing in the Chicago Catholic League?
For me, seeing some of the schedule that we get and some of the crossovers, Leo's a 1A, 2A school, and now as we're getting enrollment up, we're probably going to be bubble for a 2A, 3A. We don't get a chance to see anybody that's our size until the playoffs, and that's one of the hardest things is to be able to make the playoffs when you're a 1A, 2A school in the Catholic League. I want to say at the prior school, as you mentioned at Joe's, it was very hard to be able to turn that around. But the kids willed us to where we're at. And, I see the boys here at Leo, and I see their commitment to excellence. I see their commitment to athletics. I see their commitment to academics. And I think that with those kids, we're able to keep them healthy, keep them eligible, and then ultimately keep them together. I think that we're going to have a special group this year. We've got 17 seniors, which is the largest senior class that we've had in quite some time. And so you have to have senior leadership to be able to take these kids beyond where you're just at on the average team to being great. And I've got some great senior leaders right now. Marshawn Durr, Gavin Donald, Markel Roche, Joshua Hines, Nicholas Armour, Gavin Donald. I don't want to leave some of these guys out, but a strong senior class, Carlin Henry. There's multiple kids that have just been, good leaders and getting out there. Daniel Gamble's working hard, Daniel Jackson. So we've got some kids that are out there that are actually getting after it. They're trying to hold kids accountable. And one of the things that I think that's going to be a big difference maker for us, I've got the curriculum written up for how to lead when you're not in charge. To be able to teach young men how to be able to go out and lead, even if you're not doing something that you feel like is relevantly important. Going out and, we were at one of the schools recruiting and seeing some of the kids, and they had kids that were from their program that weren't captains, that were freshmen, and people left trash on the field. They started picking it up on the stands. They started picking it up on the sidewalk. And I'm looking at them, I'm saying, you guys are developing a winning culture. When I don't have to tell a kid to pick up, and I don't have to tell them to sweep the locker room, if I don't have to tell a kid to sweep the shed in the weight room, those are winning mentalities and attitudes that are only going to be able to serve us well. And I think if more people focus on that, the camaraderie, kids come into a space, they should take this as their home. And you should have, you should lead with that aspect. And when people start seeing the way that you're leading that aspect and doing all the small things that nobody else thinks about, I think that's how you truly be able to get to a point where people say, hey, this is the guy that always does things the right way when nobody's looking, and he's not looking for appreciation. I think that's how you end up turning the program around. I think that's how you end up competing in the Catholic League, because those same kids that are holding each other accountable by picking up after everybody, they're the same ones that aren't missing weights. They're the same ones that aren't late for class. They're the same ones that are doing the things that they're responsible in the community. And if you get enough of those young men on that team, I think that you're going to be successful.
Coach, you mentioned your social media, and I have to say, I love the school's website. From the Distinguished Alumni tab to the link to the Big Shoulders Fund, I could spend a lot of time and go down several rabbit holes on your website. And one thing that I notice gets highlighted throughout, common thread throughout the website, is being a Leo man. You've touched on it a little bit here, but maybe tell us a little more about what being a Leo man means to you.
So I can't speak from with inside the brotherhood in that aspect, because unfortunately I was not able to go to Leo. I'm from the West Coast. But one of the things that I can say that is unlike any other place that I've ever been, we have a Leo alumni banquet every year, and it's over in Hickory Hills. And for the first time ever, I was invited when I first got there and I don't misquote me on this, but I think there was probably 30, maybe 1,000 to 2,000, maybe 3,000 people in there. And it's the huge banquet hall back there on the and literally I saw gentlemen from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, 2010s, and the one common goal, no matter what race, ethnicity that you are, they tell you that Leo is your first fraternity that you ever joined. You bleed black and orange, or orange and black. And I can't tell you how many times that I've worn my Leo gear in the neighborhood. I've worn it throughout Chicago. I've worn it in Naperville, Wheaton, different places that I've been. And then you find out that somebody's father or grandfather was a Leo alum. And they get a great feeling of pride and distinction knowing that when you step out, you get to be able to be a catalyst behind this machine that is known as Leo Catholic High School. And to me, that's a phenomenal feeling to be able to be a part of something like that. And, the boys and the administration, everybody always says fact and nonverbal, which is deeds, not actions, right? Or not words, right? Deeds, not words. And so I believe that every day that each and every one of us are going out and doing what people consider to be the impossible, educating black and brown boys on the south side of Chicago with the assistance of the alumni and giving us options and opportunities. Mr. Andy McKenna, who was a big-time donor to Leo, we've had access to the Bears, the Blackhawks, the White Sox, McDonald's. There's so many different Leo alumni that have done phenomenal things. One of the alumni bases that reached out to me, the Marques family. I think every one of the Marques family brothers have went on to play at a Big Ten university. And then on top of that, they also have family members that are amongst the Marques brothers that played for the NFL. And so it's every day that I turn around and I learn more and more and more about this brotherhood. It's really a breath of fresh air when you start realizing people talk about the largest attendance in high school history, right? That's Leo Catholic High School, the 1942 Prep Bowl. Well, here's how small the world is. Coach Morrissey, who is over at East Moline, his father is a Mendel grad. Well, they gave me access to some film and footage of the 1942 and 1943 Prep Bowl. So instead of just having this news clipping, I've got a live video of that time and that era. I've got video from the 50s, the 60s, and 70s. A promotional video that they made for Leo in the 80s that have Leo legends such as Mr. Mike Holmes, Corey Walden, Mr. Bob Foster, Babe Baranowski, Mr. Bob Kelly himself. And these gentlemen are legends in Illinois. They're legends in college football. And then they're also legends within Leo itself. And so to be able to come in as a historian and loves history, to be able to sit here and stand on the shoulders of giants, there's no greater feeling in the world. And it's one of the largest and most impactful moments of my life, being able to be a head football coach at Leo Catholic High School.
Great. So, Coach, I know you're looking to take that next step as a program from a football perspective, and that usually means getting your team into the playoffs, right?
Yes, sir.
What types of things are you emphasizing and working on with your team in order to take that next step?
I believe that if you let me put this the best way I can. Leave their hearts and out their actions, success will surely follow. I believe that if you invest in people and you don't spend time with people, but you invest your time with people, you get a return on it. That was another big one from Coach Frank. Invest your time so you can get a return. But ultimately, I believe that when you invest in people like we're doing at Leo and what we're doing in our program, good things are going to continue to follow. And I believe that as we're turning the corner and we're getting more kids in and seeing opportunities for these boys, and it's not the first time that they're seeing this on game day, making sure that we get as many live reps as possible, mental reps in pregame, board review, and then getting coaches that come from championship pedigree, from Leo, from other schools in the Catholic League, bringing an offensive coordinator that beat me when he was at Mount Carmel, getting him to come over and join me and be my offensive coordinator, getting guys that are able to teach the game and coach the game at such a great level. I think that's what's going to turn the corner. And then also bringing back some alumni that had historic past. That's going to be something that's going to be able to help us, because it's one thing for me to try to come in and tell people, hey, listen, you're going to be a champion, right? And I didn't do it from where they're coming from. It's a whole nother when you have somebody that walked the hallways and, as my father would say, that walked the pews. When you have someone that comes from there and rises up to be able to be a coach and be able to give back, I think that's the thing that's the difference that's going to be able to help us be successful. Our principal, class of 93, he played football and he wrestled. Mr. Dan McGrath, he was also on the basketball team. He also was with the Chicago News Tribune. And so you sit back and you think about all these people that don't have to come back, but they come back because their love for Leo and the fact that they hired me to be able to further the dream that I have of being a head coach in my vision, and they're equipping me with everything that we need and then some. That'll be the big difference.
Well, Coach, part of that is the day-to-day, and I noticed that in 2022, you mentioned the Chicago Bears and some of the other pro teams in town. They helped provide an update to the practice field. How has that new field changed your program on a day-to-day level?
So they actually had the Bears grassroots grant that they got. That was before me. That was I believe Coach Holmes's. I think is the year that he retired, or I think it was the spring before he retired.
Uh-huh.
And they transform. I mean, people all around the community, they utilize the field from time to time. We'll have kids from the neighborhood that'll be out there. As the numbers have grown, where we have 90-plus kids now, and usually about 70 to 80 kids out at practice during the day, we've had to be able to transition from there from time to time. We do a lot of walkthrough or individual stuff over there. But when we start putting the pads on and stuff, we're not able to really utilize it as much as we like sometimes. But we have throughout the summer utilized it, 1 to 2 days a week in conjunction with being able to utilize the Croc Center as well and the old Calumet.
Yeah, so, Coach, I see you have 3 all-conference players returning from last year. They're Neil Anderson, Nicholas Armour, and Javon Logan. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I know you're probably relying on them in a big way, obviously, this year, but who are some of the other players that maybe we haven't heard about yet, but we should be on the lookout for this year?
So Marshawn Durr kind of got hid behind the roster a little bit last year. He was in a position where he had to play quarterback for us. He was serviceable to be able to play that position. He's now in the position where he's going to play to play at the college level. He's going to be a free safety or a wide receiver. His family, the Durr last name, a lot of people know that family. Gavin Donald, he was a major blow to us. He had sustained a lower leg injury last year. He's back. He bounced back phenomenal. He's been in the weight room. He put over 150 pounds on his squat. So he was squatting, I want to say 385, almost 400. Landon Watson was one of our freshmen that came out that's a rising sophomore. He didn't miss a weightlifting session. He got additional work, and that's a credit to his mom and his father, taking him to go see Coach Donnell Brown in the offseason on top of our Iron Lion football program, where he put on 150 pounds on his bench press, which was phenomenal for him. I think he went from 135 to 285. That was in a 6-week adjusted period. So, I mean, seeing that growth for these boys, I think that guys are also, Tawala Johnson is going to be a kid that's going to turn some heads this year. Tawala's a good young man, came from the Chicago Hellcats, worked his butt off. He did track and field, and he even wrestled. Lucas Villanova, another kid that played football, went and wrestled, and then he did track and field and weightlifting with our Iron Lion program. I came from an era where I played every sport to keep me out of trouble on the West Coast. I played for a Hall of Fame coach that he said, when you're done with football, you can either go to basketball or you go to wrestling. and then you go from there and you can do track and field. And this is obviously, in the 2000s before 7-on-7 really got super big and started kind of like taking over. But it was just a great opportunity to be able to get better. And so I believe that we're not just developing good athletes, but we're creating and helping develop and mentor and mold guys that are going to be good citizens, good fathers, good sons, and ultimately good husbands. And that means more to me than anything else. And I'll say that, until I'm no more. That means more to me than anything else that I can do as a coach, is to be able to have somebody, 5, 10, 15, 20 years come back and say, hey, coach, now here's my son, here's my daughter, and here's a man that helped play a pivotal role in my life. Those are things that mean more to me than any wins and losses. And I truly believe if you take care of the kids, you take care of the people, that the wins will come.
Coach, this has been great, and Joe, I don't know if you have any more questions. I'm all out, but I know that you always like to have one that you want to finish with.
Yeah, I do have one more. And Coach, I asked this of the other coaches that we interviewed too, and I'd just like to get your take on it, your perspective, and where you see yourself. But a year from now, if we're sitting down again for another interview, what do you hope we're talking about as far as Leo and Leo football?
I hope we're talking about the resurgence of Leo and restoring the roar. Going into our 100th year in 2026, and talking about, we're starting to see glimpses of the Leo of old, where they were competing on a regular basis with some of the big guys. Obviously, it's wishful thinking to be able to say, I'd like to be able to compete, in the green or another division or whatever. But I firmly believe that the grass is greener where you water it at. And I believe we're watering it on 79th Street, and we're building something special. And I hope that we're sitting back and we're talking about, Coach, you guys, made the state playoffs for the first time since 2013. How'd you do it? And, I could sit back and I could tell you that we invested in the kids, and we invested in this brotherhood that's given so much back to us. And ultimately talking about how we're going to continue to bring in quality student athletes that want that faith-based education and a great experience, and that we're able to provide them on 79th Street.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for your time today. That'll do it for this episode of Varsity Voices from the coach's office. Coach Marques Stevenson of Leo High School, we thank you for your time and wish you the best of luck this fall.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys for having me. It's a great opportunity for each and every person, and ultimately go Lions.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. So that's Coach Marques Stevenson from Leo.
Ready to go.
Leo.
I know, yes.
Yeah. One of the things I love about what he's doing, or over the last couple of years since he's took over, is really leaning into the history of Leo. What people won't be able to see or hear is, after the interview was done that you and I did, he kind of walked us around. We weren't in person, but he walked us around with his phone, walked us around the school, showed us the trophy case, showed us all the different things that they've put up, and the memorabilia, that kind of gives homage to the Leo program and what it once was. I think that's really cool what he's doing.
Yeah, definitely pairing the old with the new, like leaning into the history, like you said, and incorporating social media at a high level. It's a good plan, and I think he is on the right track. They are going to be an improved team this year, and I would watch out for them in the future.
Yeah, me too. And the other thing I like, restore the roar.
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. I like it. You have to have those things. High school football is just that's what it's all about, to get kids to buy in. He showed us some things that they've got planned for the kids, the players, the kind of behind the scenes stuff, and so it was it's exciting. I'm excited to follow their program this year.
Yeah, I am too. I'm interested to see how they do this year. He did mention one important thing, which I know people think about, as far as the Chicago Catholic League is concerned. But the Leo program being the smallest within the Chicago Catholic League, obviously they want to get to the playoffs, right? But he's right. They're a 1A, 2A team, playing games within the Chicago Catholic League against some much bigger teams and some of the big boys that are out there. So, it's tough for them to get to that 5-win mark, just because of that.
Yeah, I commend them for staying in the league, and I think they're doing the right thing. They've got as much history as anyone. So, staying in the league, yeah, it's a challenge, but they're on the right path, and they're embracing it. And I think they're, like I said before, they're doing all the things that they have to do to be successful.
All right, well, that's it for this special episode of the Coach's Office, or from the Coach's Office, and thanks again for listening. Make sure you tune in for our next episode, where we will bring you another preseason edition of From the Coach's Office. Don't forget to subscribe or follow and like us on wherever you're listening from. And you can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as if you want to email us, it's at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you come back and listen to our next episode.